This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you for joining us. Senate Republicans are moving forward with a committee vote today on Brett Kavanaugh's nomination before the Senate Judiciary Committee. This comes after an emotional day of testimony over allegations he'd sexually assaulted Christine Blasey Ford when both were high school students. Abigail Robertson has the latest.
In a hearing that gripped the nation on Thursday, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford and Judge Brett Kavanaugh both gave emotional testimonies about what they remember from 1982.
Dr. Ford, with what degree of certainty do you believe Brett Kavanaugh assaulted you?
100%.
Dr. Ford described in detail what she believes happened.
Brett groped me and tried to take off my clothes. I believed he was going to rape me.
And said she has no doubts it was Brett Kavanaugh and Mark Judge who were in the room and attacked her.
What is the strongest memory you have?
The uproarious laughter between the two, and they're having fun at my expense.
Then Judge Kavanaugh took his turn, where he categorically denied her claims.
I'm here today to tell the truth. I've never sexually assaulted anyone. Not in high school, not in college, not ever.
And said while he believes something may have happened to Dr. Ford, he did not do it.
The other night, Ashley and my daughter Liza said their prayers. And little Liza, all of 10 years old, said to Ashley, we should pray for the woman. We mean no ill will.
Kavanaugh told how this process has destroyed his family and good name, consequences that will follow them for decades.
I love coaching more than anything I've ever done in my whole life. But thanks to what some of you on this side of the committee have unleashed, I may never be able to coach again.
Kavanaugh confronted Democrats head-on, calling the process an orchestrated and calculated political hit job.
This confirmation process has become a national disgrace. The Constitution gives the Senate an important role in the confirmation process, but you have replaced advice and consent with search and destroy.
Judge Kavanaugh assured senators no matter what, he's not backing out of this process.
You may defeat me in the final vote, but you'll never get me to quit. Never.
And our senior Washington correspondent Jennifer Wishon joins us now with reaction. So Jennifer, how are Republicans and Democrats spinning that hearing today?
Well, you know, they are spinning hard I think both sides are feeling pretty good about it, actually. I think Republicans feel good coming out of this hearing. They feel like they have a good chance to get Brett Kavanaugh on the bench. He came out. He had a strong testimony. He was emotional. He was indignant. He was angry about what his family has been through, but he was also respectful of the fact that, as he said, he believes Dr. Ford has been through something, although it was not at his hand. On the other side, Democrats are also feeling pretty good because Dr. Ford, by all accounts, was a credible witness. And even if Judge Kavanaugh is confirmed and elevated to the Supreme Court, they feel like this only plays well for them in the midterms. We've already heard Senator Kirsten Gillibrand from New York saying this proves that Republicans just don't care about women. We are going to be hearing that over and over and over again in ads between now and November. And Democrats feel like this only further energizes their base heading into November.
And now that the hearing is over, what lessons do you think lawmakers have learned about the process?
Well, I think the process, I think by all accounts, didn't work well. And I think most notably, the importing of a woman, if you will, by Republicans, this prosecutor who in her profession, she deals with prosecuting sex crimes. On paper, that sounded good. In practice, it didn't work. Having her question Dr. Ford in 5-minute increments about this deeply personal thing this trauma that happened to her so many decades ago didn't work. She was really unable to do what I think Republicans wanted her to be able to do. And furthermore, Ephraim, if we think about this, 27 years ago, Anita Hill faced the Senate Judiciary Committee, then run by Democrats, chaired by Joe Biden, an all-male panel. And so I think that because the Senate Judiciary Committee has such an important responsibility to confirm Supreme Court nominees, Republicans would do well to learn from this and put a woman on the committee, because half the population is female, and certainly they need to have a woman's perspective on the court. They should not have to import a woman to question a nominee. And so hopefully they will learn that lesson. I would also say that, as we live through this Me Too movement, I think all elected leaders need to become comfortable talking about these issues, and that includes Republican men.
What's next? Are the Republicans now ready to vote?
They are. They are steaming ahead with a vote in the Senate Judiciary Committee this morning. That's the plan. Mitch McConnell is then going to pull a procedural move over the weekend that will set up a potential full Senate confirmation on Tuesday, as early as Tuesday. I think there's still some behind-the-scenes wrangling that needs to go on. John Cornyn, the whip, is working his magic to see if they have enough votes. But I think they're really feeling like they have momentum and that they can get Brett Kavanaugh on the bench.
All right, Jennifer Wishon, another busy day for you in Washington. Thank you. Some political observers see the upcoming November elections as one of the most important in U.S. history. Two American Christian leaders recently visited Jerusalem and told CBN's Chris Mitchell they believe prayer and action are the keys to the midterms.
On November 6th, Americans will decide the makeup of the House of Representatives and the Senate for the next 2 years. Christian leaders Cindy Jacobs and Lance Wallnau told CBN News the church can play a vital role in those elections.
I think that we need to pray that God will raise up righteous leaders. We're at a tipping point for the nation, and I believe that if we do not vote righteously, then we're going to see some things start unraveled. So as intercessors, we want to pray, that God will be exalted.
Wallnau sees freedom on the line and a time to act.
We need to mobilize in our country so that we are actually able to occupy the spaces where we have freedom and push back on having those freedoms taken away. And most Christians don't want to mobilize. They don't want to be activists. But the book of Acts is about acts. And that's the root of activism. You've got to get engaged.
Jacobs is mobilizing a 40-day prayer event.
One thing we're doing is there's a group of prayer networks that we have all banded together, and we have something called Pray in Unity.
The website prayinunity.org provides prayer guides beginning September 28th through Election Day.
You can sign up, prayer walk your street, or find a prayer group at your church. But please pray. Pray for your family, but always pray beyond your family, because your family will suffer under unrighteous administrations if you don't pray for the nation.
They both agree prayer is a big step, followed by actually voting.
We have to pray, but we have to mobilize and vote. And I think that sometimes we think that the prayer is a substitute for the corresponding action. And you can't hire someone else to do your civic duty. You got to vote for the congressman that's in your district. You can vote for the senator in your state. These are elections right now where you have direct authority in your territory. And so this is where Christians have to show up in their own territory.
Voting is spiritual. Voting is actually a spiritual act, because we're called to steward our nations. We're called to disciple our nations. So if we vote, then we will get righteous leaders.
And Chris Mitchell joins us now here in studio. So good to have you here.
Great to be here, Ephraim.
So first of all, how do you believe the midterms will impact Israel?
Well, it could impact Israel and the Middle East. For example, John Kerry, former Secretary of State, met with his former counterpart, and he said, just wait until the elections are over, the next election. If President Trump is wounded politically in the midterms, I think that's going to make Israel's enemies bolder, I think. And that could be one impact it would have.
Now, at the United Nations, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu described what he said was a secret atomic warehouse in Iran. He claims the country is still seeking to obtain nuclear weapons. Do you have any insights there?
Well, one thing is that the Mossad is amazing. Back in May, they actually stole nuclear documents from the Iranian government right in a Tehran neighborhood. And here they've discovered another one again. I think it leads to the fact that Israel sees three main enemies: Iran, Iran, Iran. Exactly. They see that as their main enemy, and they will not allow Iran to get nuclear weapons.
Now, Chris, are there tensions in the region with Russia over the air defense system?
Yeah. Just about 2 weeks ago, there was a Russian airliner, not an airliner, but military plane that was down. Russia blames Israel. Israel said it was Syria. But because of that, Russia is now selling what's called the S-300, one of the most sophisticated air defense systems in the world, to Syria. Now, this is going to make it much harder for Israel to go ahead and attack Iranian bases, military bases inside Syria, which have been doing for the last 2 years.
What's the latest in Syria?
Well, what's happening in Syria right now is sort of a shifting. For years, it has been militias fighting each other, but now states are facing off each other. That means Russia, that means Turkey, that means Syria, that means Iran, means the U.S. and Israel, all competing over what's going to happen, the future and the fate of Syria.
Wow. On a lighter note, Israel is celebrating, of course, the Feast of Tabernacles. What can you share?
Well, there's thousands of Christians that come all over the world, and Jews around the world are celebrating the Feast of Tabernacles. They live in what they call sukkah, these little booths, which celebrates the time when God protected them, got them out of the land of Egypt to the Promised Land. It's a reflection of what's going to happen in the millennium when the Messiah is here, and people are literally going to go up to Jerusalem to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles.
Something I love. It also impacts the food right now, too.
That's true. It does.
Indeed. Chris Mitchell, thank you so much.
Great to be with you.
Good to have you here. Coming up, we are taking a look at how evangelical leaders are responding to the Trump administration's refugee cap for next year. We've got that story. It's all coming up right here on CBN NewsWatch. Stay with us. A group of evangelical leaders wants the Trump administration to reverse course and increase rather than cut the number of refugees admitted to the United States. The request follows last week's announcement on refugees from the Secretary of State. Heather Sells brings us the story.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo released plans last week to limit the number of refugees allowed into the U.S. by 15,000 next year. That would cut the number to 30,000 overall, the lowest since Congress first passed the Refugee Act in 1980.
Leaders from the evangelical immigration table are asking the administration for more, not less. They want a cap of at least 75,000, in keeping with U.S. tradition since the early 2000s.
Since 1980, we've seen both Republican and Democratic administrations receiving refugees at pretty high numbers.
These Christian leaders say the U.S. is not only breaking with tradition, it's cutting numbers at a moment when the help is most needed.
The number of 30,000 is really concerning because right now we're facing the world's worst refugee crisis since World War II.
Across the globe, some 25 million refugees, many from Syria, are trying to escape danger in their homeland. Advocates say they're surprised at this recent move to cut the number of refugees because in addition to the Trump administration touting international religious freedom, the president himself has vowed to help persecuted Christians.
As it relates to persecuted Christians, do you see them as kind of a priority here?
Yes.
You do?
Yes, they've been horribly treated.
But State Department numbers show with the overall drop in the number of refugees admitted the last 2 years, the number of Christian refugees admitted here has also declined. Still, the Trump administration says admitting refugees to the U.S. is not the only way to help them. Sometimes it's better and more economical to keep them in their region. The president made that point Tuesday in his speech at the UN.
The most compassionate policy is to place refugees as close to their homes as possible, to ease their eventual return, to be part of the rebuilding process.
A little wiggle room on the cap number appears possible. The administration says it will consult with Congress before its final decision. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Still ahead, what if you received a friend request from God on Facebook? What would you do? That is the premise of a new show premiering this Sunday. Up next. There is lots of buzz surrounding a new CBS show. It's called God Friended Me. Here is a closer look.
I thought I had it all figured out, but then I got a friend request from God.
What? And so begins the CBS series God Friended Me, with a cast that includes Violet Bean, Suraj Sharma, Javisha Leslie, Joe Morton, and Brandon Michael Hall.
So, how does a preacher's son lose his faith in God?
You're telling him that God is watching over us? You know that's not true.
You don't think that what happened made me question my faith?
When I was 8, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. She went to full remission. The doctors couldn't even explain it. On the way home from the hospital, she died in a car accident.
Miles. Brandon plays the starring role, Miles Finer, the outspoken atheist and preacher's kid who accepts the God friend request.
I don't know who's behind this or why they chose me, but they sent me names. They want me to help people.
Hey, somebody stop that guy!
When you pulled me back, I realized, I didn't want to die. Thank you.
And the role of a preacher's kid isn't exactly new for Brandon Michael Hall.
I grew up very Southern religious. My mom, who is a beautiful, beautiful, strong, powerful woman, she was a pastor in the South. And I watched her basically struggle as a female pastor, making her way to where she finally was like, you know what, I'm going to create my own community, my own church. And we used to go to church about 3-4 times a day. We used to pack our homework. We used to go up to North Carolina, South Carolina, settle in. You're gonna eat on the way down there, and then you're gonna go get dropped off at home once you get dropped off at school once you get back. So religion was a huge part for me, and so to have this part is big.
There is no proof of God anywhere in the universe. We will debate that and more on today's episode of The Millennial Prophet. I am your host, Miles Finer, reminding you that there is no God and that is okay.
Per usual, you're misinformed. You grew up in the church. You know this better than anyone.
Yes, it is true. My father's a reverend. We got the whole Luke Vader dynamic going on. I got into acting from being at church all the time. I would sit and watch the preacher and be wrapped in how, he would take this ancient text and people would go off and talk about it and then come back changed and feeling different.
Let me get this straight. You're being catfished by someone calling themselves God on Facebook.
Yes, and I need your hacker skills to give me their IP address.
Keep your voice. How many times I gotta tell you I'm not a hacker, okay? I'm a video game enthusiast. Okay, what do you know?
My only lead, Cara Bloom. She writes for Catapult.
Cute and accomplished.
This isn't Tinder, Rakesh.
You mean Bumble, bro. Nobody uses Tinder anymore.
I'm gonna go down there and I'm gonna get to the bottom of this.
What are you gonna tell her? God sent you?
I believe that we all have a calling and we all have something in which we can be actually active in doing. And so just with Miles, he gets friended on Facebook so happily, and that's his calling to make a change.
People say that God has a plan for all of us. Well, I never believed that to be true.
But then he friended me, and it kind of turned my life upside down. Not that I think it's God, but in these crazy times we live in, we owe it to ourselves to ask the tough questions.
And you can catch that this Sunday on CBS. Stay with us. There's more of CBN NewsWatch coming up right after this. It is a real busy weekend at the box office, and one animated film is packed with some star power. LeBron James, Common, and Regina Rodriguez, just to name a few. Let's check in with her, actually, for a preview.
Hi, Christian Broadcasting Network. Check out this special sneak peek of Smallfoot in theaters September 28th.
Sure to make you laugh, but now let's take a closer look at how this film measures up for family friendliness from our friends at Plugged In Online.
We have searched the entire mountain trying to find one. And that day has finally arrived.
The movie Smallfoot tells the tale of a Yeti named Migo. He's a happy and contented Bigfoot in a mountainside community of giant Yeti. But when he happens to witness a strange craft crashing outside his village,
No, get away! And then bam! And that's when it scooped me up, and I was like,
and discovers a tiny creature with itty-bitty feet, his world is turned upside down.
look at your small foot! Oh my gosh! It's a small foot!
Could this be the fabled Smallfoot? Something Yeti mythology declares does not exist? Before the excited Migo can bring other Yeti witnesses, the craft and its tiny-toed traveler mysteriously disappears. The Stone Keeper, in charge of all the Yeti laws and histories, assures Migo that he must be mistaken.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
No.
I did.
No.
I saw it.
It doesn't exist.
But Migo isn't looking for excuses. He wants truth. And if that means swallowing back his fear, traveling down the mountainside, past the clouds, and down to the places where that scary Smallfoot roams, well, that's exactly what Migo will have to do. Taken at face value, this fun kids pick encourages youngsters to be upright, curious, and accepting of others. But it might also be seen to encourage questions about parental authority, or could also be interpreted as having an anti-faith message. Parents should be ready to give their tiny-footed charges a little deep snow guidance. With that in mind, I'll give Smallfoot a 4 out of 5 for family friendliness. For the full review, be sure to check out PluggedIn.com. Plugging you into the movies, I'm Cheryl Wilhelmy for Focus on the Family's Plugged In Movie Review.
Time now for your Friday Faithful, and I leave you with this thought as we wrap the week and head into the weekend. In most of life's troubles, there's usually a missing ingredient. His name is Jesus. Take a good long look at the issues you face and ask yourself, have you brought them to the feet of Jesus? Very often, the case is you have not. Remember, cast all your cares on him because he indeed cares for you. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember that you can always find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. And we would love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, on Twitter, as well as Instagram. We thank you for your company today. While this concludes the newscast, the news continues 24/7 at cbnnews.com. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make it a great Friday, everybody.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Senate Republicans are moving forward with a committee vote today on Brett Kavanaugh's nomination for the U.S. Supreme Court from the Judiciary Committee. It comes after an emotional day of testimony over allegations he sexually assaulted Christine Blasey Ford when both were high school students. Abigail Robertson has more.
In a hearing that gripped the nation on Thursday, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford and Judge Brett Kavanaugh both gave emotional testimonies about what they remember from 1982.
Dr. Ford, with what degree of certainty do you believe Brett Kavanaugh assaulted you?
100%.
Dr. Ford described in detail what she believes happened.
Brett groped me and tried to take off my clothes. I believed he was going to rape me.
And said she has no doubts it was Brett Kavanaugh and Mark Judge who were in the room and attacked her.
What is the strongest memory you have?
The uproarious laughter between the two, and they're having fun at my expense.
Then Judge Kavanaugh took his turn, where he categorically denied her claims.
I'm here today to tell the truth. I've never sexually assaulted anyone. Not in high school, not in college, not ever.
And said while he believes something may have happened to Dr. Ford, he did not do it.
The other night, Ashley and my daughter Liza said their prayers. And little Liza, all of 10 years old, said to Ashley, we should pray for the woman. We mean no ill will.
Kavanaugh told how this process has destroyed his family and good name, consequences that will follow them for decades.
I love coaching more than anything I've ever done in my whole life. But thanks to what some of you on this side of the committee have unleashed, I may never be able to coach again.
Kavanaugh confronted Democrats head-on, calling the process an orchestrated and calculated political hit job.
This confirmation process has become a national disgrace. The Constitution gives the Senate an important role in the confirmation process, but you have replaced advice and consent with search and destroy.
Judge Kavanaugh assured senators no matter what, he's not backing out of this process.
You may defeat me in the final vote, but you'll never get me to quit. Never.
That was Abigail Robertson reporting. Now, among Thursday's many protests, there was support for Judge Kavanaugh. Paul Strand spoke with one group of women who shared why they're standing by him in the face of these allegations.
1, 2, 3, 4, we won't take it anymore.
A number of women are out protesting against Judge Kavanaugh, presuming he's already guilty of the sexual charges leveled against him. But another set of women gathered before the Dr. Ford Judge Kavanaugh hearing to rally for him and the rule of law.
Judge Kavanaugh has certainly faced a number of accusations, but it seems the number one accusation against those who support him is that they're not automatically siding with his women accusers. This women's rally is here to say that's not the America they know, and that's certainly not the American way of law.
Biggest danger is that we are going to lose something that really is a foundational point of our society, which is that there is a presumption of innocence until proven guilty.
The Judicial Crisis Network's Carrie Severino clerked for Justice Clarence Thomas.
You have even the Democratic minority leader saying there's no presumption of innocence. Look, that's something Joe Biden gave to Justice Thomas. That's not just about what happens in a criminal proceeding. This is a fundamental American value. This is something that goes through all of our, not only our Judeo-Christian heritage, but the whole Western tradition.
The women at this rally spoke out that they certainly oppose sexual assault or harassment, but charges aren't enough to find the accused guilty.
We believe in taking allegations of sexual violence very seriously, but we also believe in due process and we believe in fairness.
We've seen it over the course of the last year and a half with the Me Too movement, is that a simple accusation without anything to back it up could end a man's career.
We believe that justice is blind. Justice must remain blind to immutable characteristics, whether it's age, whether it's race, whether it's religion, or whether it's your gender even.
I've got children at home, I've got boys and girls, so I want to make sure that both women and men get a fair hearing.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Capitol Hill.
Here now is a look at some of the other major stories we're following for you in the CBN newsroom today. All 47 passengers and crew members aboard a Boeing 737 plane have survived after it crash landed in the Pacific Lagoon Friday morning. The plane was approaching an international airport in the Federated States of Micronesia. Striking footage from the scene shows people being rescued from boats in the half-submerged plane. 7 people were taken to the hospital for treatment. The cause of this crash is not known. Police arrested 7 men in the Netherlands Thursday on suspicion of plotting a large-scale terror attack. Dutch prosecutors believe they foiled the plan. They say the suspects wanted to use bomb vests and assault rifles to do harm at large events in France and the Netherlands. They also planned to detonate a car bomb at another location. 3 of the suspects were previously convicted of attempting to travel overseas to join extremist networks. At least 91 people are dead and hundreds of others are injured after a powerful earthquake hit the island of Sulawesi, Indonesia. The officials there say that a tsunami warning has now, though, been lifted. The 7.5 quake followed a 6.1 earthquake that hit earlier this Friday morning. The quake has been followed by strong aftershocks, and a local disaster official says that many houses have since collapsed. Here at home, the fallout from Hurricane Florence continues to unfold in the day-to-day struggles of the storm victims, like Travis Manning and his family. His 11-year-old daughter still can't comprehend all that's happened to her childhood home after being flooded by 5 feet of water. Travis himself had been in a futile race against the encroaching mold until Operation Blessing came in to his rescue.
When Hurricane Florence hit North Carolina, Travis Manning didn't know he'd be the one who needed help.
I'm used to helping other people. I didn't expect to have almost 5 foot of water in here. There's nobody coming in the middle of the night to help you. You're here. You're on your own.
Travis's whole community was going under, and rescuers were struggling to reach families still trapped in their homes.
They had no clue where these houses were. So we had to basically guide them in there, show them where they were at.
So with his own home flooded, Travis was out helping other people. Now that the water's out of the house, timing is critical. Travis needed to work fast as mold set in.
If you don't get to it now and get the wet stuff out, it's just going to spread, and it's going to be more and more destruction that you got to tear out. My son was helping us out, but he's trying to keep his grades up so he can go to college. My daughter's 11. She's having a tough time dealing with it all. Basically leaves me and my father-in-law. I mean, there's going to be the two of us today in here, and we've just been taking it day by day.
That's when Operation Blessing arrived.
Today, with Operation Blessing's help, we probably got done in, 4 hours today, what would probably take us 4 days to do. We've ripped all this, almost all of the countertops and cabinets out, wet insulation and sheetrock out of those 2 rooms. Now they can start drying. And that's the thing, is we've got to start the drying process before we can start rebuilding.
Operation Blessing was there to help Travis and his family in their time of need. Now they can start to get back on their feet and take those first steps toward recovery.
And that's what it's all about, is trying to put this house back together, get my family back in here. It's that much closer to putting our lives back together. It means the world. Thank you.
Such wonderful gratitude for the work you're doing. Coming up, you may have heard friends hawking the benefits of essential oils. See why drops of these natural extracts are being used for practically everything from cleaning supplies to curing anxiety. The story's coming up next. Unhealthy chemicals are everywhere. They're in our cleaning products, body lotions, and ointments, even in some of our medications. Many people are trying to detoxify their lives. As Lori Johnson shows us, they're turning to essential oils, using plant extracts to take care of their homes as well as their bodies naturally.
Like millions of Americans, Sarah Hilburn struggled with emotional issues that led to physical ones.
I had gotten to the point where my anxiety and depression was keeping me from sleeping at night. I would spend several days out of the week just being awake the entire night, being awake the entire day.
Instead of seeking a prescription for Ambien or Lunesta, she turned to lavender oil.
I can honestly say that essential oil saved my life.
Putting the oil in a vaporizer next to her bed helped her begin getting more rest and in turn feeling happier.
I diffuse the lavender usually by itself just because it's very calming and it smells really good and it makes me sleepy.
Sarah also found other benefits. She puts cooling peppermint oil on her feet when she's feeling overheated and credits rose oil for her flawless complexion.
Oils extracted from plants have been used for medicinal purposes for centuries, but just in recent years, essential oils have exploded in popularity.
In his best-selling book, The Healing Power of Essential Oils, Dr. Eric Zielinski explains how to use dozens of these natural extracts.
You know, the Bible says the leaves of the trees are for the healing of the nations. I can think of no other substance on the planet that epitomizes that like essential oils.
Essential oils come from distilling parts of plants like the root, bark, flowers, and leaves.
When you inhale citrus essential oils specifically, like orange, neroli, bergamot, lime, and lemon, it's been shown clinically to help decrease anxiety, decrease depression, and boost your mood. A lot of research being done with cinnamon and blood pressure balancing. So whether someone's diabetic, someone's obese, there's a lot of things you could do.
Even many pills we take mimic what's in nature. Aspirin, for example, is modeled after willow bark, which people used for centuries as a pain reliever.
So next time your son or daughter, your grandson, your granddaughter gets a fever, you can apply some diluted peppermint or orange oil on his or her back, and you'll see the fever go down. Next time you get a sore throat, you could gargle with a little bit of myrrh essential oil and water. Next time you get a headache, you can apply some pain-relieving oils like frankincense or copaiba.
And benefits go beyond relying on the medicine cabinet. Dr. Zielinski and his wife Sabrina use essential oils instead of store-bought synthetics throughout their home, from body lotion to deodorant and beyond.
More people who are concerned about the chemicals in household cleaners are choosing essential oils because they clean naturally.
Sabrina makes her own laundry detergent using ylang ylang. No chemicals and about $20 to wash 150 loads.
So when you're thinking about not just your kids, but your animals as well, it's really important to choose the right things when you're cleaning.
That includes mixtures for dusting, cleaning glass, granite, and even tougher jobs.
But what about like your all-purpose cleaner? What about, my stove? Is this really gonna work on the stove? Yes. Usually it has an orange, a clove, a cinnamon, a eucalyptus. It smells amazing. I mean, wait till you smell this. You're gonna be like, wow, that smells like Thanksgiving.
In just minutes, you can whip up hand sanitizer.
All you need is a 2-ounce glass spritzer bottle, 10 drops of essential oil. My favorite is lemon. Then you need 10 drops of witch hazel, 10 drops of a grain alcohol, and then you fill the rest of the bottle up with either purified or distilled water. Shake and go.
Since essential oils are highly concentrated, it's best to dilute them using what's known as a carrier oil, like jojoba. And watch out for fakes.
It is absolutely necessary to only use pure essential oils. What most people don't recognize is what a lot of these manufacturers are doing are synthetically adding different chemicals to essential oils and to other compounds to make them smell sweeter. And that's where you get your plugins from, your aerosols. And they've been linked to a number of diseases, neurotoxicity, cancer. We're talking Alzheimer's and dementia.
He recommends organic oils indigenously sourced with a batch report showing they're the real deal. So these days, Americans increasingly turn to natural, wonderful-smelling essential oils for healing, personal care, and around the house. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Still ahead, we're going to head to Washington, D.C. for a special tour of the National Cathedral. Stay with us. It's been years since an earthquake rattled Washington, D.C. and caused more than $34 million in damage to the National Cathedral. Ben Kennedy takes us inside to see how a force is helping with repairs.
It's officially known as the Cathedral Church of St. Peter and St. Paul. The stately structure offers spectacular views, vaulted ceilings, and more than 200 stained glass windows, including one depicting space, which is especially unique.
A real piece of the moon is in the window.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's the only place in Washington where you can actually see a piece of the moon.
7 grams of lunar rock, to be exact.
It was not just rock that they returned to Earth, but in an exciting way, the very horizon of eternity.
Donated by the crew of Apollo 11, led by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Long before that historic landing came creation, symbolized in this window. 10,000 pieces of hand-blown glass highlight God creating the heavens and the earth. The cathedral allowed CBN News a rare up-close look.
If you look at the top of these windows, you have the Supreme Court and the White House and then the U.S. Capitol.
The cathedral sits above all those famous places, making it the highest point in Washington, D.C. It is there that stone gargoyles and grotesques are believed to ward off evil spirits. But one stone sculpture draws visitors to the dark side.
This is the north side of the cathedral, the dark side of the cathedral, which is why he is where he is.
He is none other than Darth Vader? May the Force be with you when trying to track down Darth Vader. As you'll see, he's not easy to spot. Now, I'm no Jedi, so I had to travel 20 stories up through an elevator just to get a better sight up top of the Sith Lord.
People come and they just want to see Vader, and they stand right down there on the ground, like that guy right there. And you walk by and they're looking and they're looking and they're looking and they just want to see him.
A design competition during the 80s Star Wars craze sparked an entry, which ended up earning the well-known villain his spot.
It's actually been great because it's one form of engagement that the people have with the cathedral, which sometimes is all they need, and then they want to come back and they want to see what's inside. and then maybe they want to come back and go to church, or they want to, so, whatever it takes to lure people in the door, Vader has a purpose.
His purpose could be the force behind helping the cathedral recover from the millions in damages caused by the 2011 earthquake that rattled the nation's capital.
Where a magnitude 5.3 earthquake has been felt.
And here you can see this is earthquake damage.
Repairing and replacing stonework costs big bucks, money the cathedral doesn't have. That's where visitors and donors can make the difference.
A lot of people do visit the National
Yes.
Cathedral.
Yeah.
What are the numbers? How many are we talking about?
We get about, all told, visitors and worshipers, we get about 750,000 a year.
Oh, wow.
Christmas and Easter are our big ones.
During those services, priests and special guests have shared God's message from the Canterbury pulpit for decades.
A lot of people have preached from here. Billy Graham, the Dalai Lama,
Martin Luther
King, obviously, yeah.
Influencers, tourists, and a faithful following keep the Washington National Cathedral running, and having the force on the grounds doesn't hurt, especially with new Star Wars movies bringing in new generations.
You can come back to it time and time again, and no matter where you are in your life or your life circumstance, you can find something new and enriching and something to move your faith to the next place.
After spending a day inside, we only got to see a fraction of what the National Cathedral has to offer. So, bottom line, it appears we'll just have to come back. For CBN News, I'm Ben Kennedy in Washington.
May the force be with you. We'll be right back. CBN International celebrates a Superbook Sunday milestone with a local church in Thailand. Superbook Sunday school classes celebrated the end of their first curriculum season. Church leaders organized a big event called Superbook Party. It was the first time parents came to listen to the gospel presentation program. The Superbook curriculum is being used at more than 450 churches throughout Thailand, with more than 9,000 children attending those classes. Time now for your Friday Faithful, and I leave you with this thought as we wrap the week and head into the weekend. In most of life's troubles, there's usually a missing ingredient. His name is Jesus. Take a good long look at the issues you faced. Have you brought them to the feet of Jesus? Remember, cast your cares on him because he cares for you. With that word, make this a fabulous Friday and indeed a wonderful weekend. Remember, you can always find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out, touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.